Hello and welcome. My name is Roger Quayle, and you are listening to My Life in the Mosh of Ghosts. Hello and welcome back to My Life in the Mosh of Ghosts with me, your host, Roger Quayle, and thank you for joining me. Today's episode is Gig 30 or Podcast 30 or whatever you want to call it, and thank you everyone who has been kind enough to support me with words of encouragement thus far. After a couple of high-profile gigs with Cabaret Voltaire, Throbbing Gristle and the Human League, we're back down to earth with a bump this week. It's back to the Blitz Club, which was the alternative music club in Sheffield for this period. We're talking about the summer of 1980, with some bands who you might not have heard of. So we're going deep into the underground at the Blitz Club at the George IV pub on Infirmary Road in Sheffield in the summer of 1980. Here we go. I despise Sir Keith Joseph, and I'm not alone in this. In an infamous 1974 speech, the right-wing Tory politician suggested that poor families should stop having kids because they are creating problem children, with the result that the balance of our human stock is being threatened. He and his fellow Conservatives are hated here in staunchly socialist Sheffield. Labour could put a donkey up for election here in Brightside and Carbrook, asserts my dad, proudly, and it would still beat the Tories. Joseph is one of Margaret Thatcher's most trusted winged monkeys, and the Wicked Witch has appointed him Secretary of State for Industry, specifically to prepare nationalise industries for privatisation. Central to this project is a swinging programme of redundancies in steel, shipbuilding and coal. Joseph, in turn, has headhunted ruthless industrialist Ian McGregor to be the chairman of the British Steel Corporation. My employer, the National Coal Board, has a proven track record of efficiently managing redundancies and pension payments to former miners. As a result, it has been appointed as the agency to process the tsunami of layoffs from the steelworks and shipyards. So it is that the son of a hard-left unionised steel roller from one of Sheffield's still dark satanic mills finds himself an agent of the Conservative government. With unemployment approaching 2 million, I'm signing redundancy letters on behalf of the mysterious P.W. Stafford. These little paper emissaries of misery will soon drop through letterboxes from Motherwell to Middlesbrough, Corby to Consett. This, then, is real life. I was cosseted through my teens by my parents and school chums, lost in records and books, approximating the bohemian dream of life as an artist come musician. But now I must bid a bitter farewell to that fantasy life. I've managed to get myself off the dole, but only to find myself in a job that depends upon other people being laid off. So I resign myself to the fact that life is indeed a daily battle, a survival of the fittest, and that I must sacrifice idealism in favour of expediency. These are the first heaves in an internal tug of war, one that will last for the next 4 years. So now I can buy records that I haven't got time to listen to, and books that I'm too knackered to read. Gleaming chrome accessories for my drum kit, which once I could only admire through the windows of Hudson's music shop on the moor, are now in my possession. Also, I can now afford to buy a round of drinks at the Blitz Club. but the sold-out nights of the big hoedowns at Sheffield's best post-punk club, housed in a quaint rodeo-themed room above a pub on Infirmary Road, are coming to a close. Purple-haired promoter Disco John is running out of local bands that can draw a big crowd. Anyone with pulling power, I'm So Hollow, Artery, Stunt Kites, Vendino Pact and DVA have already played twice. So yes, it has been packed for They Must Be Russians and the Comsa Angels. But all these bands now dream of getting out of Dodge, in search of wider vistas than those offered up by the George IV's cramped 200 capacity upstairs room. So John is looking further afield, seeking new skin for the old ceremony. New wavers the Expelaires come down from Leeds for a night of accomplished but airless and prosaic punk. More daringly, he invites feminist artist Linda Sterling and her band Ludus over from Manchester for an evening of tricksy tunes much like her artwork, all sharp angles and peculiar juxtapositions of flesh and form. I've met them before, when DVA shared a bill with them at the YMCA in London last year. I played Ludus drummer Toby's kit that night, which, in my greenness, leads me to believe that we are going to be best mates for life. But I get blank looks from him when I bounce up with a tiggerish, "Hi Toby, how's it going?" He flicks through his inner filing cabinet of northern nutters, but my index card has been misfiled. So much then for the brotherhood of the beat. In spite of my ideological misgivings, I apply the same puppy-like can-do outlook at work. After all, I want to make my mum and dad proud. So I run around, desperate for everyone to like me. Management, supervisors, the Sharons and the Bevs, even the temps. Naturally, I end up pleasing no one. Also pleasing no one, back at the Blitz Club, is Richard Strange. The one-time frontman of glam proggers Doctors of Madness has struck out on his own, with only a Flasher's Mac and a Revox tape recorder for company. Starring in his own one-man show, hubristically entitled The Phenomenal Rise of Richard Strange, he plays the Bowie meets Bogart hero with plans for world domination. However, global dominion seems likely to remain a pipe dream if he can't hold the attention of a small crowd gathered above a pub in Sheffield on a Tuesday night. I'm reminded of other new wave bandwagoneers I've seen, like Zane Griff and Snips. Sharp cheekboned pastisheurs scrabbling in the scree for a foothold in the 1980s. Stranger Than Fiction from near Doncaster are so heavily indebted to Bill Nelson that they might as well be called Bebop Redux. 3 years ago, I would have probably loved them, but I'm more into Sun Ra than Sunburst finishers these days.
Keys to the executive washroom next.
I've been put in charge of stationery at work, but no one at the coal board office gets my Jack Lemmon in the apartment joke. I'm riffing on Billy Wilder, but they're listening to Billy Joel. Now, when you are in charge of stabelos and staplers for 5 floors of women, this position, the prince of the post-it notes, wields untold power. Yet shyness prevents me from being so bold as to actually ask out on a date any of the stars in this firmament of shining maidenhood. Even so, I'm oddly happy being in a state of near constant infatuation, projecting my fantasies onto a smart girl called Danny, who's temping here while she studies for her degree in psychology. In the hope of impressing her, I've bought a book about Friedrich Nietzsche. Back at the Blitz Club, Disco John knows his best bet is to book local bands and play to the home crowd. Basically an incestuous clan, we Sheffield's drummers and strummers are never happier than watching someone we know picking away at and sharing their belly button fluff, only to gleefully castigate them once they've left the stage. The musical Janines, basically the singular Salon Graf, without Sheffield student sweetheart Pam Young, blithely jam away. Ian Elliott and his merry pranksters from Peterborough are searching for a dubby weirdness, which, due to their innate Middle Englishness, pours out more Leon Perrins than Lee Perry. However, the room is full for De Tian, the new art jazz vehicle for Paul Shaft, once of Sheffield punk stalwarts 2.3. Promised a full 2-hour immersive cerebral live experience, we are also advised to get in early. The band, a duo accompanied by the now inevitable backing tapes, have been on for about 20 minutes before they start to draw a bead of flack from my DVA bandmate, avant-garde horticulturist and drinking partner Charlie Collins.
Backing tapes!
Charlie hisses.
How can you properly improvise over backing tapes when you already know when the bloody things are gonna end?
His fevered fulminations attract the attention of Richard and Mal from Cabaret Voltaire, who have also been lured along in search of an esoteric evening. Charlie.
What do you reckon then, lads?
Mal. It sounds like Jackanory. Richard. I only came for the disco. I've been done. Henceforth known to us as Dirty Ann, I see them again at Rotherham Arts Centre in July, when their arid invention is usurped by a thrilling impromptu rejoinder from Charlie, together with fellow reedsman Martin Archer and drummer Pete Infante, which culminates in a beautifully sensitive reading of Charlie Hayden's Song for Shay. Back at work, I've developed a fear of answering the phone. No good news ever comes from that receiver. If it isn't a dogged, desperate Scottish steelworker, to whom I've made the cardinal error of giving my name, then it's a weeping widow from the Welsh valleys who is worried that her late husband's pensions won't continue to be paid out. You've made your bed, Roger, and now you're going to get screwed in it. Shut your eyes, think about payday, and bury that terrifying glimpse of the little Thatcherite hatching inside, just like Sir Keith Joseph hoped it would. For me, there is one final visit to the George IV pub, when Artery hire the room for their own show on July 15th, and I duly attend to marvel at Mick Fiddler's starry-eyed savant one more time. Country music legends Don Williams and Charlie Rich look down on us as we form memories that will soon recede, like half-remembered Saturday mornings with the Lone Ranger and Tonto. The Blitz Club started on the 27th of November 1979 with a concert by I'm So Hollow, and ended on the 24th of July 1980 with a gig from Sexual Lotion. And I'm pleased to be able to say thank you to John Blyther, then known as Disco John, for organising one of the best club nights that I ever went to. You have been listening to My Life in the Mosh of Ghosts with me, your host, Roger Quayle. Thank you to Simon Elliott Kemp for the intro and outro music, and thanks also to Rionagh for the artwork. Join me again next time for another episode from My Life in the Mosh of Ghosts. This is Roger Quayle saying thank you and bye-bye.